I'm Madhu Sharma and this is Design Mind. Every episode we teach your mind about design by analysing a website. In this episode of Design Mind, we are continuing our analysis of Google Inbox. If you haven't seen the previous episode, head over to www.designmind.info to catch up, otherwise this episode won't make sense. In the last episode we looked at how Google Inbox understands the web usage mode, how Google Inbox makes content easy to understand at a glance. In this episode we are looking at how Google Inbox understands our relationship to email, how Google Inbox streamlines its interface. We will also look at some weaknesses of the design as well. Let's now examine how Google Inbox understands our relationship to email. When you get an email, it's going to be doing one of three things: providing information that you have to act on, asking for information. Because of this, Google Inbox treats emails as tasks. When you've read a message, you can click the Done button to hide it from the main view. If it's a message that you have to act on in the future, you can hit the Snooze button. For example, in this email, I have to submit a report, so I can snooze it to remind me to do it at the appropriate time. The ability to hide messages that have already been read is actually a feature that's present in Gmail through its archive function. However, Gmail's archive function is annoying to use. Most emails contain trivial information, so having to click on each message individually to archive it is a bit of a chore. Google Inbox avoids this annoyance through its sweep feature. Simply pin the important messages and then hit sweep to hide the rest. It's the same functionality as archiving, but it involves less steps, making it much more pleasant to use. Let's now examine the Streamlined Interface. In Gmail, the interface elements are across the top in multiple rows. They are also on the side. In Google Inbox, however, the interface elements simply live in a single row at the top. The rest of the space is exclusively used for content. Shadows are used to establish a hierarchy. You'll notice the control bar has a darker shadow that visually lifts it off the page. It feels physically further away from the messages, and so is clearly defined like a secondary element. Another streamlining aspect is that the message-specific controls are in line. We've already talked about how cumbersome Gmail's archive functionality is. In Gmail, if I want to archive this message, I have to open it, go to the menu at the top, hunt around for the archive button, and then click it. That's a 4-step process. In Google Inbox, this tick icon appears next to the message, so I can archive it in one step. On mobile, it's streamlined even further, as I can just swipe to the left. You'll also notice that there is this big floating plus button. Click it and you can quickly create a new message. A selection of my most frequent contacts are also displayed at the same time, making it even easier to send a message to them. One really pleasing aspect of the interface is the use of colour. The pastel shades create a soft, reassuring feel. When reading email, the sheer volume of messages triggers an instinct to run away, so using these reassuring colours helps to balance this out. These colours do run the risk of appearing childish, but the use of blue as the primary colour counteracts this, as blue is traditionally associated with the corporate world of business. Overall, the streamlined interface really helps to remove friction from the design. In Gmail, it's difficult to know where to look first, as the interface and content compete for our attention. In Google Inbox, everything feels more organised. You know exactly where to go first and then where to go next. Let's conclude this analysis by looking at some of the weaknesses of Google Inbox. First off, as we noted earlier, Google Inbox bundles related messages. This helps to cut down on clutter. The bundle provides a list of senders, so we can decide whether or not we want to click to read it. The downside is when you open your bundle, the inbox becomes cluttered again. It's too bad they didn't follow the approach of this service called Unroll Me, which combines multiple messages into a single email. This is great as you can quickly skim read all of them. Although the message is longer than the Google Inbox bundle list, the different visuals break it up, making the messages more interesting and less of a chore to go through. Next, while the use of coloured icons to represent the email senders makes it easy to spot messages, the system is limited. For example, as I discussed in the last episode, I have lots of messages from a person called Mark, so they are all represented with a big M in a yellow circle. This makes it really handy to spot all his messages. On the downside, my name is Mardu, which also begins with the letter M, so all my messages are also marked out with the same icon, which is confusing. They should have used a different colour for my name, or perhaps even my Google Plus profile photo. Another problem is the placement of this plus button. On mobile, the plus button is perfectly placed here, as this area of the screen is where your thumb naturally rests when holding a mobile phone. On desktop, however, placing it at the bottom is awkward, as websites generally place key information at the top. Having to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the screen to create an email message seems counterintuitive. Finally, as beautiful as the interface is, I think it suffers from being a little plain. The interface is an example of Google's material design, which is a new philosophy that focuses on simplicity and the prioritization of information. Other Google services also use material design, and they manage to avoid feeling too plain by making use of a hero image. For example, on the Google Play Store, all the apps have their own hero image, which helps to balance out the plainness. It would have been nice if Google Inbox did something similar. Here I've mocked up an example of how it could work. Google's clever algorithms are used to work out which is the most important message in my inbox, and then that message is displayed in a more graphically appealing fashion. Of course, for this to be a useful feature, the message chosen would have to have a high degree of relevance, otherwise the big graphic would end up getting in the way and become an annoyance. Overall, Google Inbox is an excellent example of design. It works so well because it deeply understands how users interact with email, and then it succeeds in streamlining that interaction to create a fluid user experience. That's it for this episode of Design Mind. A new episode is released every Tuesday. Find us on the web at www.designmind.info. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/designmindinfo. You can also find us on iTunes. We'd love it if you could leave us a review at any of these places. Until next time, happy designing!